Hello, hello, hello. Once again, back on a Monday, 5 p.m. What time is it? It's powered for SP3 time. And man, it's good to have you back. Obviously, just not long after the whole elimination chamber. That's what everybody's talking about. Of course, I am joined by the one and only, the A side of the cassette, as always, the Oracle of Wrestling, Mr. SP3, all the way from New York City, of course, from True Hill Heat. How are you doing, my friend? In still a blizzard, I'm hearing.
Yes, it's a very white day in New York City. A lot of snow here. We're going through a blizzard. So if my Wi-Fi is a little bit choppy, I'm a little bit fuzzy, I apologize once again. I'm sure John is well prepared after last week where I was gone for a short minute and he had to have a solo show powered for John Scott. I'm sure he is experienced now, but I don't think we're going to have those worries today. But it was a very busy weekend with the Elimination Chamber show. It's been very busy in the wrestling world ever since 2021 has kicked off, but we're going to keep on moving. We're going to talk about the chamber today. You're going to bring me another what if, a diabolical what if, and
Exactly.
We'll do a little true and false, have some fun on a Monday. So let's get it started, John.
Of course, and you'll get the B side of the cassette if Mr. SP3 happens to fall off, unfortunately, but it's okay. It's okay. So yeah, let's start at the top. Let's get straight into it. SP3, everybody's talking about of course, the fallout from the Elimination Chamber last night. I've got to say, I said off air that I was quite impressed. You know, I went into it very, very cold. Not really that interested. There wasn't even a match that I pinpointed. I thought I'm looking forward to it because I was looking forward to the whole when Keith Lee was involved, but then he got taken out and they called an audible on that. So it was like, I'm not sure. So I just went into it, not high hopes, but I've come out and I actually think it was a decent show. It was a decent part of the progress towards WrestleMania. This is what I want to see more often. What was your take of the event and some of the main points that's come out of last night's show?
WWE has been incredibly consistent with pay-per-views ever since they made the move over to the Thunderdome. And that's down to them having one of the best rosters from top to bottom, that you can put a group of these guys in the ring and they're going to produce something of quality. And that's what we got last night with the Elimination Chamber. I thought the main event Raw Elimination Chamber was really well done. All the eliminations came at like the perfect time possible. And I thought it was very well booked and not what we typically see on a Monday night. I thought the U.S. title match was a lot of fun. They just made Bobby Lashley look like the next best thing next to Brock Lesnar in that match and really put him over at the end of the night with his attack on Drew McIntyre. You had the 2 title changes with Riddle becoming the U.S. champion, as well as The Miz cashing in Money in the Bank and becoming the WWE champion, which is very newsworthy and sets up a logical main event for Fastlane, which is always the thing that you kind of want with your pay-per-views on the road to WrestleMania. You want to have a link from, Royal Rumble to Elimination Chamber to Fastlane to WrestleMania. We hope that in the future we won't get so many pay-per-views between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania, of course, but as long as they can connect all of them together, I think they're doing their job as an episodic, type of business that professional wrestling is. But the SmackDown Elimination Chamber was great. Like when you put in kind of the best of the best from 2009, 2010 Ring of Honor in the ring together in Danny O'Brien, Kevin Owens, aka Kevin Steen, Cesaro, aka Claudio Castagnoli, and Sami Zayn, aka El Generico, you put them in with an all-time great tag team wrestler who's shown himself to be a great singles competitor as well with Jey Uso. King Corbin even looked good in that match. There was just so much great wrestling going on, but making Cesaro and Daniel Bryan the anchors really drove the quality up. And that's why I thought that was the best match of the night and one of the better elimination chambers that I've seen in the last like 2 or 3 years. They just, that was just a logical story. Daniel Bryan got a good win. And if Daniel Bryan was just going to go into the next match, hit one move and then lose, then I'm happy with Daniel Bryan being chosen to win that spot. I want the Cesaro to win, but if that was the outcome in the Roman Reigns match, that makes sense. And then after all of that, we set up the main event to WrestleMania. So this was a newsworthy show that is going to get people talking. It sets up things for Fastlane, sets up things for WrestleMania. That's what I want to see from WWE.
Man, you've hit a lot of points there, SP3, but, good points as well. It's one of those things with The Miz as well that I think if you'd have told me, if I'd have had this conversation with you last week, SP3, and that was a suggestion from you, I'd have probably blown that well off, because it's one of those ones that on paper, it doesn't look like it's going to make any sense at all until it happens. You have to kind of see the full thing. And coming out of it, I thought, actually, it makes all the sense in the world, and I'm pleased they've done it. But if you'd have told me that beforehand, I'd have been like, what, knock Drew off now? Like, at this point, they've just built him back up again. I kind of see where they're going. Bobby Lashley, he's looking like $1 million at the minute. They're going to protect him. Now, of course, what basically looks like what's going to take place at WrestleMania SP3 here at the moment is that we're going to get, of course, Drew McIntyre possibly going in against Fastlane up against Bobby, probably, and with the whole Miz thing surrounding it as well. How do you think this is going to play out? Because I've got some rumors here saying, they're going to have Miz go in as the champion at WrestleMania. They're not going to do anything before then, and they're going to have him defending that title, possibly up against Drew. And then other people are saying, no, they're going to do something with a triple threat. Other people are saying, no, it's going to be Drew McIntyre getting the number one contender against Lashley, maybe, and then going in. And then other people, even beyond that, are saying, well, why not have, of course, Miz lose to Lashley before then? But what do you say, SP3? I mean, this is good because nobody can kind of really predict exactly what will happen at this point, which is probably not a bad thing going into Fastlane.
Yeah, I mean, like a little over a week ago, I think that Drew McIntyre either had a very predictable road to WrestleMania or a boring road to WrestleMania, where, the predictable route would be that they would pay off the whole story that they built up with Sheamus. And even though they would have a great match, that seemed like a predictable road to go down with Drew in the champion position against the challenger Sheamus. The boring route would be like, okay, they bring back maybe a Brock Lesnar and try to do a redo of WrestleMania 36, or Miz cash in Money in the Bank, and we get Miz versus Drew McIntyre. But I think by the way they did this setup, I don't think that that's the matchup at WrestleMania for the WWE Championship. I think that they did a great job of setting the seeds for the cash-in with the MVP and Miz backstage segment without any audio. You just saw them talking together and it got you intrigued, and it was like, what's going to happen next? What's going on here? And we saw what happened. Bobby Lashley made the attack on Drew McIntyre, which set up Miz to cash it in. Now, what I think the deal is that MVP was cutting with the Miz is that Bobby Lashley gets the first title shot at the Miz for the WWE Championship. So whether that happens on Raw or whether that happens on Fastlane, I think that Bobby Lashley is going into WrestleMania as the WWE Champion now. I think they wanted to get the Money in the Bank out of the way, and that's why they had the Miz win here, because this doesn't seem like a long-term plan. I'm not a person that's very high on this move. I'm not a person that's very low on this move. I'm somewhere in the middle, because Miz has been booked like absolute crap for well over a year now. And for well over a year now, Miz has been a part of probably the worst or second worst segment on every single episode of Monday Night Raw and SmackDown. I am a huge Miz fan. I've been a Miz fan since a lot of wrestling fans never heard of the Miz. I was a Miz fan watching MTV at 12 years old, watching The Real World, and him having a WWE title, walking around the house like I'm the WWE champion, because I was like, I relate with him because he's a wrestling fan like me. That's what I would be doing if I was in the Real World house. Saw him on the challenge, saw him into Tough Enough, and into his whole WWE career. So don't get me wrong. I'm not someone that comes up here with a bias against the Miz. I should have a bias for the Miz. If this happened before WrestleMania 34, I would have been all for it, because I thought the Miz was hot since 2016, and that promo he cut on Talking Smack, and he had a hot run for 2 years with Maurice, with the Mr. Raj on both Raw and SmackDown. But for the past years, especially since John Morrison came back and they just put them back into their old gimmick, he has been stale and he has been in bad comedy segments for well over a year. So it makes absolute sense for that to be your WWE champion going into WrestleMania 37. I think that Bobby Lashley feels hot, he feels protected, and he finally feels like a top star. After almost 15 years ago, WWE wanted him in this position. They now finally have got it, and they need to pull the trigger right now and make Lashley and Drew McIntyre the WWE Championship match for WrestleMania 37.
Interesting points. We've got Mike Angus has just wrote in. How you doing, Mike? Do you think Brock and Lashley? Well, like we said, I mean, I'm not really for that at this point, if I'm honest. But you know, the thing is, talking about Lashley, I'm like, look, I know everybody, I think, is basically predicting they're going to give Drew the moment in front of fans, even if it's just 25,000. I think that's what people's perception is. But I wouldn't be totally against Lashley like being the man that night and having, you know, like a completely different outcome to what people expect. Because I think, to be honest with you, Bobby Lashley is like your in-house full-time Brock Lesnar. And that option's always been readily available to WWE since he's come back. Now, in those first couple of years, I mean, I don't know what the hell they were doing with Bobby when he came back. I thought they were just testing his loyalty to see if you're going to keep coming back, because you had that ridiculous thing with his sisters and then that goofy smile at the end of that interview he did. Do you remember that? My goodness. Where he thanked his sisters at the end and give a shout out to them. And I thought that was a work. I thought that was a heel thing, but no, they were dead serious. And I thought it was a terrible rehash of him. But only now are we starting to see where I think they should have gone with him probably from the get-go. I just hope there isn't too much damage, like most people, that you see this. And with regards to The Miz, I think you're 100% right. I think with The Miz, you know, when you look back at his first title run, I think I appreciate it more now that we're like 10 years removed or whatever it's been. I look back at it a little bit more fondly, but at the time I did not appreciate it at all. It's kind of like, I don't know, like a film like Blade Runner. It was terrible when the original first come out, and then it built up this cult following years and years after it got re-released on tapes and God knows what. And I kind of feel like the same is for The Miz. Now I think I look back and I think, you know what, he was damned if he did and damned if he didn't, because he was in there with, like, in between John Cena and The Rock, and you ain't ever going to come out of that looking rosy, no matter even if you win. So I appreciate him a lot more as well. So yeah, overall it makes things a little bit more exciting, this road to WrestleMania. One thing I just want to finish up on that point between those three SP3s, do you think that WWE have quote unquote booked backwards with this, or do you think they've kind of thought, hang on, we need to change it, we need to, you know, shuffle it up a little bit more and put something here? Do you think this has been done more on the fly, or do you think this was always the plan?
Oh, this is definitely on the fly. I don't think the plan was for Miz to win the WWE Championship here. And to be honest, I don't think the plan was for Drew McIntyre to be WWE Champion before eliminating. Their original plan was to go with Randy Orton as the WWE Champion against Edge at WrestleMania. That was the report that we heard as far back as last summer, that was the plan for them to verse at WrestleMania to blow off their feud. And I think we talked about it, like them just putting it out there on a Monday Night Raw just randomly. So that got scrapped. I think before Survivor Series, they realized that they couldn't do a heel champion versus a heel champion. So they couldn't do Orton versus Roman. So they put the title back on Drew, and they've been kind of shuffling ever since then. That's why we got the rash decision of bringing back Goldberg. That's why, you know, when Braun Strowman got injured, they made the rash decision to throw AJ Styles in there, and we never got a real AJ Styles Drew McIntyre match outside of the gauntlet last week on Monday Night Raw. So they kind of been shuffling ever since Survivor Series with the whole WWE Championship picture. So no, I don't think this is the plan all along. Like I said, the way Miz has been booked, it doesn't say WWE Champion going into WrestleMania. And I'm like the opposite of you. At the time when I was living through the Miz's championship run, I was a big fan of it because I felt like WWE was making a new star. He felt fresh. He had the whole chicken heel character, but it felt fresh at that time. 10 years later, not so much. If this move happened 3 years ago, like I said, before WrestleMania 34, I'd be all for it because the Miz was at the top of his game. But when he's been for over a year in some of the worst segments, he's been a comedy chicken heel. No, he shouldn't be WWE champion on the road to the biggest show of the year.
One thing I will say about the Miz is, just to top it off there, is that, you know what, he's done well to survive this long and get this opportunity again. There's not many wrestlers that do that after like you see a lot of wrestlers like Dolph, they win the championship out of nowhere. You never see him back at that level again. And you know, that's it. And they're always like, oh, they're the former champion. We must have, I've never known an era of so many former champions in WWE than we have now. But there's been a lot, and then they go back down to the mid card, and we never see them back again. And the Miz has had some of the most ridiculous stuff. I remember when they teamed up with Ric Flair for a while, where Flair was his coach or some rubbish. He's been so many tag team partners. But, you know, the one good thing with him is outside of the ring, I think this is what's helped him the most. He's an excellent ambassador for WWE. He speaks very well. He's always been professional. Whenever I've seen him around, he's always really, really professional with the media. And I think that's a big part of the reason WWE have held on to him. And also, he's one of these guys that I think, even though he's given crap, he tries to do his best with it, always. No matter what it is, he's always trying to do it. And it's a tough thing to do because there's not many that could have done it for that long. And, you know, good luck to him. You know, he's the champ. He's going to make the most of this whilst it's there, I'm sure. Looking at the photos from last night with the belt, you could tell, you know, he had that smug look as if to say, yeah, I'm back again, you know. So, yeah, it was a cool little moment there. Now, moving on, SP3, just going to talk here.
One thing I do.
Go on, mate.
One thing I do want to say, and it kind of would segue into WrestleMania plans, is that if they don't do Lashley versus Drew McIntyre, I think we all know the other money match that they can do for the WWE Championship. They can do the next greatest champion versus champion matchup on a huge show. You know, we've seen Warrior versus Hogan at WrestleMania 6. You've seen Kazuchika Okada versus Tetsuya at WrestleMania 14. At WrestleMania 37, WWE Champion The Miz versus the 24/7 champion, the 2020 Spotify Artist of the Year, Bad Bunny. Money. That's money. The biggest merch mover in all of the WWE versus the A-lister and reality show star. This is money written all over it.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't want to see that too much, if I'm honest with you. I thought you was going to say that guy keeps telling us about Logan Paul. I thought you was going to mention him then in all this as the money match. But no, who knows what we're going to get. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I'm more intrigued. Like, I think, you know, this helps Raw a little bit more as well. I think people are going to be tuning in tonight to see what's the Miz going to bring. You know, what kind of stuff is he going to bring to this? And I think it'll make it a little bit more fun, if I'm honest, because, you know, I always think it's better the babyface chasing rather than being the champion. It's a hard thing to do to get people behind you as it is. So, yeah, let's see what happens here. Going to be interesting. Speaking of WrestleMania plans, obviously last night, the Roman Reigns is still the man in terms of the Universal Championship, you know, again. But, of course, Edge comes out and makes that statement with the spear. We get this again. We get that up there pose, the one that they can't, you know, there's no other way around it. It has to be that one. Nobody else has got any other ideas at the minute. I think we should make our own thing up for that, you know. Maybe we should have a little, that's what I mean. That's the moment. Yeah, that's the moment. But yeah, we saw that again. Edge obviously cementing what we probably kind of had a sneaky feeling that was going to be the match. Obviously, it's been made now. They're advertising it. on paper, maybe I'm feeling a little bit more better about it than I first was when this was first sort of brought to me. I think it'll be a very good match, but again, this is one of those ones where I don't necessarily think that Edge has to win or needs to win either. So we may see Roman's, that reign ahead of the table. He could be the guy that you're thinking it's going to be this wonderful comeback all round for Edge again, but he may be the guy that retains. So it'll be interesting to see the storyline. Do you think there'll be anything added towards that storyline? Because obviously we've got to go through Fastlane. Do you think they'll add too much to it, like a stipulation of anything like that in that match?
I don't think it needs it. Especially after the promo segment on SmackDown and their interactions at the end of the show, as well as at the Elimination Chamber. This is the two most well-rounded and multi-layered characters that they've had in a main event since, I would say, John Cena and CM Punk. So I think Edge knows himself so well, being 47, being this old gunslinger, the former champion, the Hall of Famer who's back trying to make one last run, one last, path of glory to the heavyweight championship and to a title that he's never won, but the world title that he never lost. So it makes sense with him. And then you have Roman Reigns being this mob boss, head of the table, tribal chief type character. They just get their characters so well. They're two great promos. Roman with his delivery and sometimes being, soft spoken, but raising his voice when he has to. It really drives impact in the words that he says. And then Edge he just gets the emotion and the passion that it needs to cut a promo and emote those type of feels to the fans that are watching. That this matchup feels like a big time matchup. It feels like the type of match that should main event a WrestleMania. And we really haven't had that type of main event matchup in quite some time. I would say that two fully developed characters like this in the main event of WrestleMania, we haven't had since like WrestleMania 30 when it was the three-way with Daniel Bryan, Batista, and Randy Orton, and that's a three-way. So we really haven't had a singles one-on-one matchup of like this proportion since probably WrestleMania 26 with Michaels and Taker. So it's gone years and years of bad like WrestleMania buildups with characters that aren't developed, but these two guys are. And I think that they have all the makings to make this real. Roman's character being with the family. He's got Jey Uso by his side. He could potentially have Jimmy Uso coming back very soon. Edge has his family in WWE. Christian making his comeback. He can get involved in this whole story. You got Beth Phoenix over on NXT. We can have the tribal chief and his family show up on NXT to approach his challenger's wife. We can have very interesting things that not only cause developments on SmackDown, but it could be across the whole entire WWE spectrum. So it's very important. And then you have Paul Heyman on top of all of that, cutting great promos, further developing the story on Talking Smack. There is so much that can be done with Edge versus Roman Reigns that this needs to be the main event. I just want the other Royal Rumble winner to finally pick their opponent, because I think that's where our other main event for the other night of WrestleMania will show up at.
Yeah, interesting stuff. And before we move on, speaking of WrestleMania again, I mean, am I right in thinking that Bad Bunny is going to be, let's say, the attraction match that we often see at WrestleMania, the feature attraction in some sort of tag team? I'm guessing that they're hoping for. Is that what we're looking at the moment, or is there anything else mysteriously going to come out of the woodwork that we haven't seen, that we don't know about, that will get made, in the 4 weeks prior, like they normally do sometimes?
Well, WrestleVotes did tweet out and report last week that WWE have been having ongoing conversations about Edge versus Reigns, Banks versus Belair, the Bad Bunny tag team matchup, and Wyatt versus Orton. which probably would be a Firefly Funhouse match. So those 4 matches seem to be the ones that they are actively building at this point and that they're having ongoing conversation with. Everything else seems to kind of be up in the air. The WWE title picture is kind of getting the players in place, as we saw last night at Elimination Chamber. I don't know what they're doing on the Raw side. I don't even think they know what they're doing on the Raw side.
Yeah.
With the former pregnant #1 contender, and they were. It seems like they were gonna go to Charlotte versus Lacey at WrestleMania for the Raw Women's Championship. So I've never been so happy since my own girl being pregnant with my twins for a woman to say that she is pregnant than I was Lacey has been saying she's pregnant, because the matchup that she had with Charlotte was probably the worst match of 2021. I know it's only February, but it is in the lead right now. It's in the lead running going into March, the worst match of this entire year so far.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah, it's one of those things when you think about it. Yes, they've done a great job with these main events, and they've obviously, there's some good planning. But like again, we harped on about this a couple of weeks ago about whether the road to WrestleMania exists, whether they really do book it strategically like they used to. And I've got to be honest with you, it's kind of like, for me, it's thinking, well, back in the day, everything was like a chessboard. They'd get, maybe even Survivor Series, the pieces would just be in the right spots where they need to get to by the Royal Rumble. Now I feel like we're playing a game of drafts, and not a good one either. And it's just like, it's just there's no interwinding storylines. There's nothing that's kind of like, they don't plant seeds very early. So I kind of feel like sometimes as a fan, the experience of being attentive, being a long-term fan, you don't get much reward for it, because they could just go anywhere. Like this Miz business, I'm pretty sure if they knew they were going to do that, they would have protected him a little bit more better coming out of, the back end of last year, for instance. But like you say, these things, the machine of WWE can literally, and I say this all the time, make anybody the star overnight. They really can. It's not that difficult. You could have somebody right now, all the way down from NXT UK to NXT, whatever it needs to be, overnight they could make him the star if they really wanted to. So it's a different industry we live in now with WWE as a company. I feel like stars are underneath that huge banner, of course, of WWE. And look, WrestleMania sells itself. It's WrestleMania. It's not about the main event anymore. So different views and different ways of looking. Just finally, just going to throw this up. Thank you, Northeast Streaming Sports. But I was just going to throw up SP3. Some people messaged me and they were like, okay, what's the chances WWE, forget The Rock coming in, forget Austin, forget Cena for now, The Undertaker. Is The Undertaker likely to make an appearance at this year's WrestleMania, or do you think it will be too soon and they may hold out until another year? Or do you think it might be become a new tradition where Undertaker just comes in, does a couple of moves, and goes away again, rides off into the sunset yet again? And with that, SP3 has frozen. I've literally shocked him with that answer. We'll get him back on. Don't forget, he's having problems in New York. They've got like some crazy blizzard going there across the pond with our friends in the States. What I think this is a good time for is a break, a little ad break. I'm going to literally fly up a video. I want you to check this out. This is from our friends over at Wrestling Travel. And if you guys want to make those trips to places like WrestleMania, of course, Wrestle Kingdom, and all the rest of it, these guys have the package for you. Check it out right now.
Please check out Wrestling Travel. They're a great sponsor for us. They help us with so many different events, so many different traveling inquiries. They are the greatest. They've been seen at Starrcade, Warrior Wrestling, you name it. Wrestling Travel is one of the premier traveling organizations for pro athletes such as ourselves.
Singles outing for the tag champ, and what a match this is going to be for Pat. What a test.
The man that gravity forgot against the phenomenal one.
Yes, so there you go, folks. Don't forget, if you want to sign up, it's real easy to do. Literally use the code SP3. You'll get 50% off your first month at powered4.tv. So yeah, go and check that out. I think the man is back now. Let's have a look. Is he there? There he is. He's back. Few issues there. Obviously, still, I said to people, look, there's some sort of blizzard going on. He's had this the last couple of weeks. We'll bear with you, but mate, I was just asking the question just to finish up there. People had been messaging me: is the Undertaker going to come back and do like this new tradition instead of the streak? It's going to be like Undertaker comes out every year, beats somebody up, and then goes off again. Do you think that WWE will do that, or do you think that they're going to like, no, this is the WrestleMania, we don't feature him in, we need to go in a completely new way?
I think that whoever is messaging you this question needs to stop. Needs to stop, because you're giving Mark Calloway ideas. Like, let this man just stay dead. Like, why we can't just be happy that he finally decided to retire after 101 different fake retirements, and he finally decided to have a final farewell? No, we gotta ask, is the Undertaker coming back for WrestleMania? Stop asking that question. Do we want to see the Undertaker at WrestleMania? No, I'll tell you myself, I do not. I do not want to see it. It hasn't been provided anything good outside of the Boneyard match last year. I mean, if we were getting something with The Fiend, maybe there would be some people excited, but I wouldn't be one of them. So, no, I don't want The Undertaker to come back. And no, I don't think The Undertaker is coming back.
Fair enough. He could become corporate Undertaker before long, and we'll see him as a GM or something. Let's hope not. That might give him another idea there. Okay, it's that time on the show where I ask, of course, the most diabolical what if. And this week, SP3, I'm not going to give you as long on this one either. SP3, now, look, we know you're a huge wrestling fan. We know you're the oracle of wrestling. We know you got all things True Heel Heat over there in New York City. But I've got to ask the question, like I always do. I'm always intrigued. Look, if wrestling had not have come into your life, or maybe you would just grow out of it, who knows, what on earth would be filling in that void? What would SP3 be doing to fill the void? What would be the hobby for you, Mr. SP3?
I think I would be doing a lot of the different stuff the stuff that I would already be interested in. Like, I'm very interested into basketball. I used to play it when I was a kid, so maybe I would have found it a little bit earlier if wrestling wasn't in the picture. I would have found basketball a little bit earlier, be more into it. At one point, I wanted to be a basketball coach. That's a little less known fact. And I went to St. John's University in New York for sports management in my first year before I decided to switch up and go for business management. So sports has always been in my life, and basketball has been my favorite sport. So I probably would be more into that. I also would have been probably as a kid been more into like comic books, because I had a slight interest in comic books and like TV shows like X-Men and the Batman cartoon series. So that's kind of been my thing. And then growing up, I've been very much into the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I have my Disney Plus app. I've already set out a mission to watch every MCU film in chronological order. I've seen pretty much all of them, but I haven't seen them in chronological order. So I'm going to go out and do that. And I actually do review WandaVision on my friend Jimmy Macaram's YouTube channel. So yes, the comic book world and the films and the TV world involved in that is something that I'm very much interested in. So that probably would be where my focus would be mostly. Outside of that, basketball. But that is a very diabolical what if, because I know even someone that's close to me as my girlfriend would just be like, "You not a wrestling fan?" That probably would mean that you weren't born. So yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It takes everything away from the man in that one, doesn't it? But kudos to the comics and everything else. I tell you what, I got back Disney Plus because I'd got rid of it. I brought it back in because I found out the Spider-Man animated series I used to watch. I loved that series. was on there. So I've been going through all of those again. As much as I used to love the original Batman old series that, of course, Mark Hamill used to do the voiceover for. That is also one of my favorite job lot done there as well. And I'm hearing rumors they even might be coming back with that old style theme to do some more animated series like that. So that'll be cool. But yeah, you can't go wrong in that. You know what? I don't think it matters too much. If you wasn't doing wrestling, you'd find an in some way, SP3. We're doing what we're doing now. I'm sure of it. I tell you one thing, though, you know, I have a lot of friends that do other sports, and they tell me that nothing seems as rampant as professional wrestling. Like they said, there's just so many flaws to professional wrestling. Whereas, you know, if you're covering boxing, you're covering football or whatever else, it's very much easy going. 1 hour, we're out. With us, it's like 24/7. I mean, it really is. There's no escape. So yeah, no, very good to hear that from you. And an interesting one. Here comes another interesting thing, and I have to ask you this, SP3, because I am not living that side of the pond. How has the Young Rock series been going down? I've been hearing, from what I'm reading, it scored up a decent rating, but obviously you'd expect that, I suppose, at least on the first one. But what was it like? I mean, has this gone down well with just maybe casual fans? Because this is a big rating, and I'm thinking, like, where have all these people come from? You know, there must be a lot of non-wrestling fans tuning into this series.
Yeah, I mean, 5 million viewers on NBC is definitely good for a debut episode of a whole new series. But I think that, you know, wrestling fans, we are in our own little bubble. We think that, you know, outside of these bubble walls of the wrestling community, that not much other people know of this world. But The Rock broke through out of this little bubble 20 years ago. They are legitimate. People out there, whether they're in their teens, early 20s, whether some people that are in like their 30s and 40s that never knew that Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, was a professional wrestler. Like whether you believe it or not, that is actually true, that people view him as just a movie star, as an entrepreneur, as a celebrity. He is not viewed as a professional wrestler. I know to us, he's a wrestler first and foremost, but to most people, he's a movie star. So this show is one of the biggest movie stars in the world, going on national TV and kind of showing his story of how he got his like upbringing throughout the wrestling community, as well as through his family, you know, being half Samoan, half African American, and all the troubles that go along with and struggles that go along with that. So this is something that's going to get intrigue from a lot of different people, even outside of the wrestling community. So the 5 million is not from the wrestling community, because if there was 5 million people watching the wrestling shows, then there would be more than 3 million watching SmackDown on a Friday night. And it's probably less than that on most weeks. It's actually less than 2 million on most weeks. This is a big portion of people that know The Rock from the Fast and Furious series, or know The Rock from Gridiron Gang. It's a lot of people that are watching from that fan base more than the wrestling community. Because me, myself, that likes to, you know, take pride in the fact people say that I watch more wrestling than almost anybody. Probably Dave Meltzer watches more wrestling than me. But outside of him, there ain't many people that watch more wrestling than me. But I missed out on the opportunity to watch the premiere of Young Rock. I have like 12 minutes saved on my DVR because I realized too late to record it. But someone who's not a wrestling fan, someone who knew The Rock was a professional wrestler but doesn't watch wrestling on an active basis, but she likes The Rock so much that when she saw him a professional wrestler, she told a young wrestling fan that he was his stepfather. Yes, I am talking about Mama SP3. My mother told me that she did watch Young Rock and she loved it. She said that she said that he bought a car from a bum when he was like 14, that he was telling people his name was Thomas when his real, because you know, it sounds more cooler than Dwayne. She gave me pretty much the whole outline for the first episode. I was like, Mom, like, you said you saw it. I didn't know you were writing a review for it. And she's a cat. she is not a professional wrestling fan, but she wanted to see this because she's a big Rock fan. So that is basically what I've been trying to say, is that this is for fans not only in our bubble but outside of it.
Yeah, she sounds like she should be reviewing. I think that'd be a good episode for you, SP3. But you know, just you talking about it, and I get exactly what you're saying there. It kind of blows me away that, look, WWE, they got all this money. We know they got money. They got all this sort of power, a little bit of influence with these networks. Why on earth do they not reach out to somebody like The Rock and think, okay, instead of spending all this money on stupid shows on the network that nobody really watches, or whatever else, why don't they invest in a guy like The Rock, bringing in, I think they'd have more success with these TV shows delivered by The Rock and trying to present wrestling in a small way, not over the top, not down your throat like WWE like to do genuinely, but having somebody else produce it, not an internal WWE guy, because that never works. Why on earth do they not do more of that to try and get back the casual fans to think, this guy, you know, because there's going to be lots of stuff in that young Rock that's going to be wrestling related. The whole family was in it at one time. So they know that's a good crossover. Why do they not do that more often? That's what I wonder about. You know, I know they're into all these reality TV shows, but again, that's a very niche market as well. It just baffles me that they don't think outside of the box to think, you know, there are other forms of media, and we've got the hottest guy, you know, a phone call away. I'm sure if he's paid handsomely, he'll do it. But I beggars belief, I guess, that they don't do more of that and try and, don't know, come up with a collaboration to do that kind of stuff and try and bring in what we used to, of course, know as the casual fan that may just tune in again. You never know.
I mean, to be fair, we don't know if they do that or not, or, you know, they probably do ask Rock to probably promote
no.
something for them, but The Rock spent almost a decade trying to separate himself from the WWE, and it wasn't until Vince McMahon decided to grovel and give him back the name The Rock. If you remember, he was Dwayne Johnson for a good portion of his early acting career, but Vince McMahon groveled and was like, okay, Dwayne, you got to the big time on your own, but now we'll give you The Rock name. It's going to help you, but, you know, you can be nice to us again. And, you know, they've tried their best, but The Rock is a bigger entity than WWE. There are some people out there that know The Rock, but don't even know WWE still exists. Like you could tell some people that don't watch wrestling that, did you see WWE the other day? And they will literally legitimately say to you, I didn't even know it was still on. They thought it like went out of business when it stopped being popular back in the Attitude Era. There's legitimately people like that out there, but The Rock has invested himself in his brand, in his career. He is a whole entire brand, ladies and gentlemen, that it doesn't make sense for him to promote WWE the way that WWE might like, or the way that fans might like to help WWE. It doesn't benefit The Rock in any way. Like $2 million, he can get that by sitting in a chair on a film set. Like, why would he do that to help out the WWE?
He's got tequila going as well.
Exactly. There has to be some type of investment outside of money. People need to realize The Rock got more money than almost every single celebrity in the world, with a tequila company on top of that. So WWE have to give him something outside of money. I heard people being like, if you pay The Rock handsomely, he'll come to WrestleMania 37 in front of 20% capacity of 10,000 people in a 65,000 seat building. Yeah, that makes sense. You know, don't worry about the pandemic issues and the COVID-19 protocols that he might have to go through, or that he might risk, you know, putting his whole production of his next film in jeopardy to make you happy as a professional wrestling fan, because you really want to see Rock versus Roman, and you can't wait the 2 years until Rock is ready to do it. Will you stop? We need to stop being so selfish as professional wrestling fans and think a step higher than what you want. You have to realize of the logistics to get to what you want takes what it will take to get there. And I don't think that professional wrestling fans do that quite often.
Now I'm seeing how Vince reacts when he calls The Undertaker up. He goes down that list and there's always gets to The Undertaker, and he's the guy that comes in every time. No worries. I'm there, boss. I'll train. I can see it now. No, very good point.
He'll take the money. He'll take the money.
Oh yeah,
he'll take the money. Every time.
He'll take anything right now. I tell you, he's doing cameo and everything at the minute. It's unbelievable. Okay, just gives me time to give a good shout. Next week we have back-to-back episodes because we're going to be powered for SP3, but immediately following we have, of course, the one and only Georgia Smith, daughter of Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog, who finally, at last, will be going into the WWE Hall of Fame. Like everybody, well overdue. I know everybody. Look, I'm one of the few people here, SP3. I probably get heat for this. That doesn't really. I'm not a huge Drew fan, and I know he's got that record of being, the first guy from the United Kingdom to hold that belt and everything else. But in my eyes, the British Bulldog, as not just a wrestler but an all-round character and presence, what he meant to us here. The basically, you put SummerSlam 92 on. Since then, that's when WWE did their huge deal with Sky Sports in this country, and they never looked back since, until recently, of course, when they lost that deal in both the UK and Germany. But it was a huge thing, and it brought wrestling in our homes here for a long time. And Davey was, it's funny to think of now, because I'm pretty sure if that guy come along now wearing all the colours, we'd probably spit him out. We probably wouldn't have that anymore. It'd be too over the top for us now. But back then, the British Bulldog was the icon. He was the guy you wanted to get behind. He was our guy. And I'm over the moon. Well overdue. But there's a few other ones as well out there that I think are overdue for a WWE Hall of Fame as well. But that's for another show, I'm sure. Also, I want to remind people, use the code SP3 right now for 50% off Powered4.tv. Go over there, check it out, get 50% off, 25 promotions available to you with the complete archive. Of course, our friends from Wrestling Travel over there that you can see Mr. SP3 on as well on a Thursday. They are on there with lockdown sessions with, of course, JC and the gang. So don't forget to check them out. And now I think it's time, Mr. SP3, for your quiz of the week. Last week, I threw a couple of strange ones at you. I've done this purely on... of course, being the Elimination Chamber. This one is all about the Elimination Chamber. So, who knows how you're going to do with this one. But let's go for it, because, it's that time of the week. I give you these every week. Are you going to do well? Aren't you going to do well? Who knows? I'm not keeping track. I know last week there was some discrepancies with the whole GM thing, and I still haven't got clarification on that. So who knows? But anyway, let's go for it. So question number one, Mr. SP3. Who were the 6 participants in the first ever Elimination Chamber from 2002? He's got his game face on.
Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Booker T, Kane, Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam.
He's got it in one. And for a bonus on the same question, where did that event come from? What was the arena?
From my very own New York City, Madison Square Garden, Survivor Series 2002.
There you go. He's got it in one there. See, threw a little one. So there you go. Good there, Mr. SP3. All in one. He had to, I think you went through. Do you remember the ridiculous trousers that Sean was wearing that night? It really put me off. And the haircut as well. It was like this big crowning moment, and his tights weren't done, and his hair looked just, I don't know what he was doing with it. But it was a great night nonetheless. But yeah, I don't know what was going on with the trousers there. Okay, now this is going to be a tough one. I think this is going to be a much tough one, but I've got multiple choice here at the end of it. So, how many Elimination Chamber matches since 2002 have we seen to the present day, including last night's? How many do you think it is? Is it A, 21, B, 33, or C, 28?
Can I get a couple of seconds? Because maybe I could.
You can get a couple of seconds. I can see his mind's working here. He's going through his mathematics here. He's thinking, hang on. So I'll go for it again. A, 21, B, 33, including both female and male Elimination Chambers since 2002, including last night's A21, B33, or C28?
Said 21, 23, or 28?
21, 33, or 28?
33. Okay. So I just thought of 5. I only got 5 so far in my head.
You got a long ways to go. I think this is going to be a guess.
Yeah, this is going to be a serious guess because I'm just saying. So it's 11. And that was 2010, and then 11. I'm gonna say 28.
How are you getting this? Yes, 28 is spot on. 28. I thought you was going to go 33 because I put the 33 in there with an odd number, thinking, oh, he'll clock that's the right answer because I've gone for an odd number. But no, he's got it. He's got it there. Okay, well done. Well done. He's done it again. Okay, now how about this then? True or false? This is for the True Hill Heat himself. Triple H has the most number of victories with 4. True or false? In Elimination Chamber.
True, because Michael Cole told me last night at Elimination Chamber that Daniel Bryan
Michael
winning 3
Cole.
was second.
He always ruins
behind Triple H.
I'll blame Michael Cole for that. But well, very attentive there. You knew that was going to come in handy. All right, this is the damnedest one of the lot, I believe. So this is another participants one, the 6 participants, right, in the ECW version, of course, that wonderful show that we all remember, December to Dismember in 2006. Who were the 6 participants in the first ever ECW Elimination Chamber match?
This is probably the hardest one because that's the worst Elimination Chamber match.
Of course.
So
yeah, it is terrible.
Bobby Lashley.
Yep.
Big Show.
Yep.
Rob Van Dam.
Yep.
Hardcore Holly.
Yep.
CM Punk.
Yep. Oh my God, is he going to
Test.
get it? Yeah, come on, dude. What are you watching? He's got something. Yeah. What's going on over there? Someone's feeding him this information. I'm sure of it. That was good. I did not expect you to get that because Test is like a real odd one out, in my opinion, of that whole bunch because that run there was quite short. But yeah, you're right. It's probably one of the worst Elimination Chambers in history. So don't go out your way to go and watch that, by the way. You'd probably be better watching the earlier one we spoke about, 2002. That's a great Elimination Chamber, but that one not so much as we recall. But well done, SP3. I mean, 100%. How do you feel after that? I mean, that's your first. I did not think you were going to get that last one, or even the one of how many eliminations. But you've come through unscathed. So congratulations, Mr. SP3. You've earned your stripes there with that one. Okay, well, just to finish up on things here. Some news from Mr. SP3. I always like to ask you this, Mr. SP3, because you are the man in the know-how. Any news going on currently in and around WWE? Anything from New Japan or our friends with Impact and all the rest of it, AEW?
Well, New Japan Pro Wrestling right now dealing with a couple of big major injuries. One not so significant, but a big significant one that just got reported over the weekend. Tetsuya Naito, the former IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion and leader of Los Ingobernables de Japón, had been injured and he had been off the last couple of shows for them. They're on the road to Castle Attack, which is this coming. believe, the 27th and the 28th. So that's going to be Saturday morning and Sunday morning. Castle Attack, which Tetsuya Naito was supposed to be on. He will be on those shows. He will also be on their Thursday Road to Castle Attack shows. It was just a minor injury. However, his co-member of LIJ, Hiromu Takahashi, who is the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, he was supposed to be in 2 big matches, teaming up with Bushi to verse El Phantasmo and Taji Ishimori for the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team titles, as well as defending his Junior Heavyweight Championship against El Phantasmo at Castle Attack on the 28th show. He's going to be out of those shows, and he's supposed to be out for up to 6 months with a bicep injury. So that's a big major injury for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Hiromu Takahashi has been the ace and the top star of their junior heavyweight division. So that's a huge loss for them at a time that, you know, they really need everybody that are considered stars and main eventers for them right now to like really kick off 2021, their first full year since this whole pandemic has happened. So that's with New Japan, what's going on with them. Impact Wrestling, we're still on the heels of, you know, New Japan and this whole partnership, as well as they're building towards Sacrifice, which is next month on March 13th. The news out of PW Insider, as well as Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, is that they're going to have a main event of Rich Swann versus Moose for the TNA Heavyweight Championship, as well as the Impact World Championship. These two guys have been feuding ever since Rich won the title back in October of last year against Eric Young, and building to this double championship matchup. Moose has been the TNA Heavyweight Champion since as well back as last summer, and he has really been building towards him winning the world championship. But you know, this is at a period of time where Impact is working with AEW, and it seems like the big matchup that they're leading to is Omega getting a shot at the title. So we will see who wins Swan versus Moose, but that's the next big matchup for Sacrifice, which is going to be on the Impact Plus app on March 13th. As far as AEW, we got to send a congratulations out to Jon Moxley, who was just named the Wrestling Observer newsletter Wrestler of the Year. He just did an interview with Wrestling Observer, kind of talking about him winning that, as well as the Bloodsport event. He got a big victory over Davey Boy Smith Jr. Definitely worth going out of your way if you like kind of the MMA mixed with professional wrestling. It got bloody. Moxley was a Crimson Mass at the end of this matchup, but a very brutal type of match, very hard hitting between him and Davey Boy Smith Jr., and worth going out of your way to watch. But Jon Moxley is going to have a bunch of big matches. You got this coming Friday the 26th on New Japan Strong. He's going to be versing Kenta for the IWGP US Championship, as well as on March 7th, AEW Revolution. The big news coming out of AEW Dynamite last week is the exploding barbed wire death match, with Jon Moxley getting his rematch for the AEW World Championship against Kenny Omega. So very much looking forward to all of Moxley's big matches in the next couple of weeks.
Wow, wrestler of the year. I mean, who'd think it? Certainly not me, I tell you. But you know, nonetheless, Jon Moxley, you know, he's making the rounds. He's proven that point now since he's left WWE for the right reasons. It's all working out for him. But yeah, go ahead and check out Josh Barnett's there. What SP3 was talking about, that match with Davey Boy Smith Jr. because we've been, I think I've shared a few posts on our Facebook page. You can see it, but yeah, it looked pretty decent, to be honest with you. The stuff they were doing there. So yeah, go and check that. SP3, I've got to ask before we sign off here. I've been meaning to ask you this last time as well. I've got to say, the whole Impact AEW thing, I've looked at this every which way, and I'm thinking to myself, why on earth? Like, I get Impact, I get what they're getting out of it, but what on earth is AEW getting out of this? What is Tony Khan actually getting out of this in the long run? Is there a real financial gain? I mean, talent? I don't know, because surely with Impact wrestlers, it's not a hard thing to sort of pick them up when they're out of contract there and just, you know, bring them in whenever you feel you need them, kind of thing. I don't think it's like WWE, let's say. And their ratings are like completely at different odds. I mean, Impact is not on a channel that I believe is that familiar with everybody in the US. So is this just like a very cozy internal relationship that Callis and the likes have got, and that they've managed to pull this off, or is there more to it? And Tony Khan is smarter than I give him credit for.
I think Tony Khan is smarter than you're giving him credit for, because
Honestly.
I think something that professional wrestling fans ask for in WWE a lot is, I want Cesaro to get a shot. And, WWE's answer to that is Cesaro's not a star. And the wrestling fans answer to that, but Cesaro's a great wrestler, and that's what I want. What fans want is to be excited about things. And that's what AEW is providing by having a partnership with Impact Wrestling. I think the whole partnership with Impact Wrestling has gave them a jolt of buzz that they wouldn't have gotten otherwise. And I think that the potential for this whole partnership with New Japan Pro Wrestling would not feel as, so many possibilities as it is right now if it wasn't for the inclusion of Impact Wrestling. But they want to do things for professional wrestling fans, and they've constantly proved that over the last 2 years. And that's something that we are not used to with the WWE. So as professional wrestling fans, we ask the question, why? What are they getting out of it? Not realizing that we're bringing it up on this show. There are fans that are watching this show that are going to be talking about it with their friends. There's going to be people talking about it with people that they don't know because they see them wearing a wrestling shirt. Oh, what do you think about AEW, Impact, and New Japan working together? It gets excitement. It gets conversation going. In the long run, that's going to get more people to try out AEW, get more eyeballs on them. The more excitement they generate in doing things like this and doing things that WWE wouldn't have thought of 5, 6, 7, even 20 years ago, they are doing it right now, and they're trying to do it for professional wrestling fans. At least that's the way it seems. So I'm very happy for this whole partnership. It's giving more eyes on Impact Wrestling, but overall, AEW is proving themselves to not just want AEW fans. They want professional wrestling fans. So if you're a fan of Impact that's been mad at AEW for becoming the number 2 promotion and taking Impact spot that they've had for so long, you're going to watch Impact. You're going to watch AEW now because the Good Brothers are over there and Kenny Omega is coming up on Impact Wrestling. If you're a New Japan fan that's upset that the Elite left us and created their own promotion that is now the number 2 promotion in North America, that you kind of had that position 2 years ago, now you're going to be watching AEW to see Kenta. Now you're going to see Jon Moxley on New Japan Strong. So all it's doing is cultivating and bringing together professional wrestling fans of all these different promotions and bringing the community together. And it's something that Powered 4 TV does by bringing wrestling communities and bringing promotions together. And it's something that AEW is doing. So John Scott, you need to get on the TK bandwagon. Tony Khan for president of the United States.
No, that's a good point, and I think it makes perfect sense. Actually, I was thinking there was a time where I wouldn't have questioned it. Example being in the 90s when we saw WWF using ECW, and I'm sure there wasn't much financial gain there where ECW were, but of course that relationship was fantastic because it brought another layer to these other fans that were watching it as adults. Because when I was a kid, I didn't know what the hell it was about, but as I got older, I realized, this was kind of pretty cool. They were sharing their stars. They had ECW fans chanting all the time. They was in that neck of the woods, and that's when WWF were cutting edge. They were picking up these little things, and it was worth doing. But now I don't think we'd ever get that now from WWE, which is unfortunate. So maybe AEW are onto something. You are right. You have you've made me think completely differently now, Mr. SP3. But I want to thank you very much for this episode, Powered for SP3. Of course, let everybody know exactly where you are going to be this week. I know you're going to be here, there, and everywhere. So let's find out right here, folks.
Yes, you could find me on Wednesday on the Wrestling Daily YouTube channel. Head over there, push the subscribe button, set your notifications. It goes live every day this week, actually, at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 8 p.m. BST. I'll be there on Wednesday with Alex McCarthy talking about the latest wrestling news, getting you ready for AEW and NXT. You can also check me out live on the Wrestling Travel YouTube channel on Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. BST, along with JC, Danny, as well as Mad Dog Mike. So we're going to be talking about the latest wrestling news. We'll talk about the Wednesday Night Wars and all the fallout from there. And Friday, you can check me out following SmackDown on the Sportskeeda Wrestling Wrestling YouTube channel, along with Rick Ucchino. We're going to be breaking down everything from SmackDown, giving you our review and our thoughts on the show. And of course, there is the sign, not WrestleMania, True Heel Heat. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Of course, go to our YouTube channel. Daily content dropping every single day. We got a new edition of AE Recap reviewing All Elite Wrestling. Wednesday Night Dynamite with Jimmy and Marcus Cash dropping today. We also got Dark Power with the Stat King. And you can see me on the True Heel Heat podcast. True Heel Heat 113 was live on Saturday. We talked about the AEW Impact New Japan relationship, as well as previewed WWE Elimination Chamber. And we also had a live stream last night following Elimination Chamber. So we broke down all the action. So check that out with Romeo, Chris G, and Ness. These are great brothers, great content over on the True Heel Heat YouTube channel. So check it out.
And 5 seconds in between that, he gets to breathe. He gets to breathe and have like some life of his own. And then he's back on again. He's like a machine over there. I never known somebody work as much as you do, my friend. I thought I was busy until I met you, I have to say. So yeah, go over there. Great. It's not just hard work. It's smart work, as I call it. There's great content over at True Heel Heat. Check those guys out. I always give plugs to those. Chrissy, of course. My favorite has to be the man himself, the alcoholic, JJ. I love that guy. He's always funny to me. So yeah, I have to get him on as well at some point. But so yeah, go and check them out. Fantastic stuff. And of course, you know, you're dropping stuff pretty much every day with True Heel Heat, and there's a whole archive of stuff to look at, which you can do on Powered4SP3. Don't forget. Now, I am going to be back Wednesday. I've got an interview with a young fan. We're going to be talking about autism and raising awareness with that. Mr. Of course, Max Green is going to be on with me. I'm also going to be back Friday for another wrestling show with our own Jess. She's going to be on with me. We're going to just be shooting the breeze, as they say, as Stone Cold says on his podcast. Let's just shoot the breeze, sitting back and just talking wrestling, as they say, with an R, on all that. And I will also, I'm just thinking ahead here on my schedule, I am going to be on the Northeast streaming, I think, on Sunday. I don't know what time though, but I will be on there for an interview. I'll be a guest for a change. The other way around, I always find that difficult when it's the other way around. I have to be honest with you. I'm not that comfortable anymore. And next Monday, don't forget, we'll be back with more Powered for SP3, and straight after we will have the interview with Georgia Smith, of course, talking about her father, the British Bulldog, going into the WWE Hall of Fame. That said, it is time to wrap things up. Mr. SP3, I hope you have a great week of wrestling. I hope that, you know, we get a good Raw. I think we're in for a good week of WWE, if I'm honest, because I think we all kind of want to know where this is going to go. I hope they keep the momentum. I don't want it to drop. I don't want a terrible performance tonight. I want them to try and keep to the top, because this is a good opportunity for them to really do that. Of course, guys, until next week, he's been SP3, I've been John Scott, and we'll see you next week.
I do. You work here, right? I do. That is Chicagoland, not Chicago, you idiot.
Oh, this could be the end right here.
20 years, all we've ever done is put gold on people's waists and turn the athletes into champions and then legends. Oh, griminess. This belt is about fighting. This belt is about the streets.
Guys, meet the fabulous idols. I'm here to tell you, you're not that fabulous.
He's a Sin City playboy as well.
I'm not going to wrestle unless they play my song. Fight me.